Periscope. We got Trey here, Doc Wilson, Periscope, Facebook Live. So we're going to be talking about, as you guys know, we're working with Trey. Trey's getting ready to turn pro. You know, how many times you hear that? Like, hey, we're saying it's going to happen, and it will happen. But, you know, we're actually, Trey was coming in today to train. He's actually doing wing gains because he's shredding right now. So, in between our talks, we got to keep that going because we're turning pro, so we can't interrupt that. So, Trey's actually been hitting some wing gains, and then right after that, I'm going to go into the show. So, let's hit it. As you guys know, you've never seen the wing gate. Can they see the weight basket on that? Maybe not.
I can
yeah, so you can see it on, if you're on Facebook Live, you can sort of see the weight basket there. So when Trey actually goes, start pedaling a little bit. When Trey actually goes here on this wing gate, and you can see that on Facebook Live, there's no weight actually on the flywheel right now. But when Trey actually, when Trey hits 175 revolutions, that weight's going to drop. And a weight that's on there that you normally wouldn't be able to move without momentum is going to drop. And then he's going to sprint all the way out. So, whenever you're ready, Trey.
Whenever you're ready.
Here we go. Come on. Get it. Get it. Come on.
Come on, Trey. Come on.
Get it. Come on, Trey.
Come on.
Get it.
Hit it.
Attaboy. Here we go. Come on. Yes, sir.
Come on. Come on.
Time. Good. So now we're going to rest Trey. And while he's resting there, if you got to walk it off, Trey, you can walk it off. But I'll set the next one, and we're going to get into this analysis. So,
I got you on a timer in about 2 minutes.
Yep. Alright, so, everyone, Andy Barninger here.
Hey guys.
So today we're talking about, see his delts coming right out there. Today we're talking about actually carb cycling, right? So carb cycling is basically where you, where essentially you have low carb days and high carb days. Now, everyone asks about what does that mean? That's going to be different for everyone. A low carb day for Trey could be 150 grams of carbs, right? A low carb day for me, you know, would have to be real low. But it's good. You're talking more like 30 grams for me. Because Trey, for example, depletes a lot faster than I do. So it's low relative to you, okay? Meaning that whatever carbs you're at, you're depleted. So, okay, so basically, we're talking about there's 4 studies. The first study we're going to talk about, or actually concept, was your cell's fuel gauge. And we'll Trey can go right after this study. So the cell's fuel gauge, you have a fuel gauge inside of your muscles. And that fuel gauge is called AMPK. You guys know your main energy source is ATP, which we depleted a lot. We're depleting a lot right now in Trey. So when ATP is depleted, your fuel gauge gets turned on. It's called AMPK. And when that's turned on, it basically means your cells are depleted. It senses that the fuel gauge is low, and it turns on the fuel gauge, AMPK, and from that you increase what's called mitochondria, and mitochondria burns fat. The more mitochondria you have, the more insulin sensitive you are, and the more fat you burn. So that's the key take-home message on it. What time we got, Andy?
Whenever you're ready.
All right, so again, here we go. Trey's hitting his wing gates. Here we go. Let's get it. Come on. Come on, Trey. Here we go. Come on.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Come on.
Attaboy. Come on.
Nice. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Come on, Trey.
Grind it out. Grind it out. Come on.
Grind it. Come on. Yes, sir.
You're good.
All right. Good job. So you see, like on that time, it was a lot harder to drop because he's got to get to 175 revolutions. So after doing several sprints, it's hard to get up to those revolutions because your legs are so full of blood. And so, again, like this is what we're doing with Trey, this is what we do with Ben Sapolsky when you saw Generation Iron. And, you know, that's how we do it, particularly when we're working on getting like Trey prepped for his shows. So, so the next concept that we sort of talked about was, so the next topic we sort of talked about, the next topic we sort of talked about was basically like what happens when you, like, do you actually adapt to longer term, like lower carbohydrate diet? There's a real cool protocol. So right now, Trey's doing these intervals, right? And by the way, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, follow at Trey Kid. But basically, Trey's doing these intervals. One sprint, like one single sprint that he does, we found the lab depletes his muscle glycogen by 16%. Now, what if we were to do this protocol and deplete Trey completely? So if one's like 16%, by the time we're done, he's like down to maybe 40% glycogen or carbohydrate source. And normally you go home and eat carbs. And that one of the studies I talked about by Yeo in 2008, basically they depleted him of carbs and they didn't eat carbs again until their next session. So say that Trey did this in the morning, didn't eat carbs till night, and then did intervals again. The second interval session, he's in a depleted state. So basically what that kind of means is that means the fuel gauge is low when he's training, so it ramps up mitochondria. So basically what that study showed is that after you did that, instead of training every day when you're in a depleted state or full state, that actually, we'll do 4 this time. Yep. That when you're in a depleted state or you're a full state, that actually what that ends up doing is it turns on the cell's fuel gauge, you ramp mitochondria, and they found that even walking, you actually were using more fat as fuel. So I think that's a really good take-home message. So again, try this if you're prepping for a contest. You do cardio in the morning, don't eat carbs the rest of the day until night, and you do cardio again at night, like this, to this intensity where you should be dying, and then you will actually cause more adaptations where if you were separated out every other day, or every day. So that's key. The last take-home message is, what's another reason that's happening? What happens to fatty acids? When you do your interval training and you train in a low-carb state, fatty acids are much higher. You raise adrenaline much higher, and adrenaline actually goes to the cell and also tells it to increase fat burning capacity. So those are some of the long-term effects. Anything I'm missing, Andy, on some of the studies?
No, that
this week?
Not on the studies, no.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit another Wingate here. If you guys just join us, again, with myself, Dr. Wilson, we got Trey Kidd here. We are prepping Trey to turn pro, and now we're sort of in the cutting phase. So we've added in Wingates. So he's going to pedal. He gets 175 revolutions. That weight drops, and then he sprints all the way out. So here we go, pro stage right here, man. Right here, pro stage.
Come on, Trey, hit it.
Come on, pro stage. Get it, pro stage, come on.
There you go, there you go, there you go.
Come on, Trey. Come on, get it.
Come on, grind it out, grind it out. Come on, come on.
Yes, sir.
Come on.
Yep.
Come on.
That a boy.
You're good, you're good.
Good. Nice work. Move forward. Maybe we drop more plate. Get the revolutions up. We're gonna do on Trey, because right now we're gonna drop one, kind of like a burnout set. We're gonna drop one plate so he gets his revolutions up on the last one, because we're trying to deplete him. On our last time we did this, literally you can see the next day how much leaner Trey is, and you can even see it in his delts. Striations are coming out. So again, like, we do research, but we do it live too. It's real cool. So, okay, so what we're going to do now is, when Andy's done with this, let me just sum up what I said. Key take-home message. We have a fuel gauge in our muscles. Fuel gauge, when your muscles are empty, the fuel gauge turns on. That fuel gauge is called AMPK. When that turns on, it increases your fat burning machinery, which is mitochondria. Interval sprints are the quickest way to do it. Like one of these sprints we found in the lab depletes his muscle glycogen by like 16%. That's just like a 10-second all-out sprint. If you go all out for 30 seconds, you should deplete it by close to 30%. So by the time Trey's done, he's gonna be completely depleted. You can see how taxing it is.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, guys, if you're in Tampa, Florida, it's the toughest thing you'll ever do. I guarantee you, we've made more people throw up on this device than anyone.
I do every day.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, just to let you guys know, we're working with Generation Iron guys, actually, and we're going to be doing a whole series with Generation Iron on the science of turning pro, featuring Trey Kidd and also our lab. So with that, you know what? Let's go ahead and we're going to take some questions. So what questions we got about low carb?
With keto, does overall calorie intake affect how quickly you will go into ketosis? For example, if you are 3,000 calories, 20% protein equates to 600 calories, which equals 150 grams of protein. Oh wow, that's a long question.
So I think his question is, what's his name?
This one is Julian.
Julian, great question. So with keto, does getting into ketosis, your overall calories affect your ability to get into ketosis? The answer is yes. Basically, in fact, people use intermittent fasting to get into ketosis faster. So calorie deficit will knock you into ketosis faster. So it's lack of carbohydrates, but also in general, ketosis can be stimulated by lowering calories as well. So the answer is yes, but also it's impacted by the amount and type of fat in your diet. So when you do have your diet and you actually have calories in your diet, higher fat ratios of fats will get you'll be in ketosis more. Is Trey still an excess calorie intake on low carb day? Yeah, not right now. So, all right, next question.
You got 30 seconds to the next one.
Okay, wait. Yeah, we got 30 seconds. We'll take the question. I'll rapid fire it. Is that turned off the comments? I think it's turned off the comments.
Why cycle carbs on a ketogenic diet?
What's up, Cameron? What's up?
Why cycle carbs on a ketogenic diet?
Well, on a ketogenic diet, you don't need to cycle carbs.
Okay.
Sometimes people will use carbs, but you should do that targeted. So it's kind of the reverse. All right, we're gonna hit up our last sprint here.
Last one, Trey. Come on.
Come on, let's shut.
Here we go. Last one. Last one.
Let me ready.
Yep.
Come on, Trey. Come on. Last one. Grind it out. Come on.
Get it. Come on.
There you go.
There we go.
Come on.
Here we go, Trey.
Come on.
Yep.
Come on.
We're gonna stretch that. Here we go, Trey. Get it.
Come on. Keep grinding. Come on.
Get it.
You're done.
Got it. All right. Good job.
Nice. There you go.
All right. So for you guys tuning in, we're on Periscope and Facebook Live. So if someone goes, I would like to take whey protein on low carb days, as it doesn't have much carbs. That's fine. Go ahead. All right. So next question. Let me go ahead and see this on the Facebook Live. Were participants in the HIT study you posted yesterday already fat adapted? No, they weren't. Country, you want to read it? Over there. So the answer was on the study I posted. Basically the people who were having higher amounts of fat and fat oxidation, they did not start off fat adapted. They started off carb adapted. And in fact, they were eating carbs just like the other people. The difference was that they would essentially train every other session in a depleted state and then have their carbs after the session, right? What about for female? So go ahead with this next question.
Does this training create more mitochondria than endurance training?
This type of training here, can create as much mitochondria as very long duration endurance training, and per minute, per second, more. Filtered here.
Protein to zero carb on rest days. Is there a time frame to switch from high carbs to zero carbs, or switching so quickly from using fat as fuel beat carbs as fuel?
Yeah, I'm not sure they said that.
Does cardio acceleration, man, it's so fast. Does cardio acceleration during workout count the same as HIIT cardio sessions after a workout?
Okay, so someone's asking about, yeah, just some of them short. So someone's asking about cardio acceleration training. That's basically, like Jim Sapani's a big fan of that. And basically what that means is like, you're doing weights and in between you're kind of doing things like jumping jacks or things elevating your heart rate. Yeah, that could serve as a HIIT training session, especially if the intensity is high. I'm going to take one, I'm also looking on the Periscope here.
I think a good one is if they don't have a wind gate at home, what can they use in place of a wind gate?
Okay,
That's
so
a good
if you
question.
don't have a wind gate at home, what do you do? What we would recommend is this. So you notice that I get on this wind gate bike, right? So I'm on this bike, and you have this machine here, and there's no weight like on the flywheel. But when I hit 175 revolutions, that weight drops. What you do is if you get on a spin bike and you spin all the way out with no resistance, you pedal all the way out for like 5 seconds, and your partner cranks up the resistance while you're in full stride. Then you pedal all out for 10 to 30 seconds, and that will do it. Let's go ahead and take about 2 more questions.
What do you do when you hit a fat loss plateau with lowest possible calories you can go? Increase calories back up?
Okay, when you hit a fat loss plateau, you need to assess a lot of things. But one of those things, if you can't lower your calories anymore, calorie cycling is going to be very important. So that's where, yeah, absolutely. You're probably going to need to go up to maintenance for a while, recover your metabolism, and then when you go back into dieting, you probably should cycle your calories. In other words, don't just keep lowering your calories. What we talked about last week was cycling your calories. So that means like you can avoid plateauing if every 5 days you're raising your calories back up to maintenance. So try and avoid that by calorie cycling.
The question we got was, do you still do HIIT on a bulk to maintain insulin sensitivity?
Do you still do HIIT on a bulk to maintain insulin sensitivity? The answer is absolutely. So here's the thing. One of the problems with bulking, just like cutting, is that if you bulk for a long period of time, you're going to become insulin resistant because your calories get so high and you never turn on that fuel gauge. So your mitochondria is not as high, you're not as insulin sensitive, and that's when you stop getting pumps and you start getting very fat. Someone goes, you periodize low carbs? Yes, you should periodize low carbs. Okay? One last question.
Do you need to keep spinning your legs during the rest period? Why or why not?
Spinning your legs in between rest periods is called active recovery. For performance, it's better. So I think if you're, especially like on this, when you're just trying to get your revolutions up, I think it's a good idea doing that light. So guys, that'll be our last question for today. Thanks for tuning in. Next week's topic
Is
supplementation.
supplementation.
Next week's topic are fat loss supplements. Trey, you want to get a pose in real quick? Over here. So
You might break the camera.
Yeah. Next week's topic is going to be supplements. So that'll be real cool. And then actually Trey's coming over here one quick. One quick pose.
Doc, I'm gonna kick you.
Anyway, thanks guys. We'll see you later. You know I love you guys. And we'll see you next week. There you go.